come on. Hey, feel the rhythm. It's getting from the deepest of your soul. Now, use your senses, and everything will be easier than before. Keep on moving, funk is coming. Let yourself be. You'll become the star in this die. Spread your wings, fly to me. Funk is coming.
Yeah, you're golden. Let's see if this time it works, because this is the second time and I'm a fucking moron. Yeah, because,
No, I doubt that.
well,
But anyway.
I don't. So,
Anyway.
Mr. Simos Funk, let me make a question you're not expecting. What about your nickname? I mean, it's kind of peculiar. Yeah.
Yeah, no, well, now that goes back away. Oh, back in the day. No, G Plus goes back to G Plus days. Of course, when I naively started, I probably used my real name. And then somebody told me that on the internet there's trolls.
Oh.
So I thought I better change my name. And after a 2-day or 2.5-day debate with some cat called Simos, we went at it back and forth in ideas for 2 days. Everybody was really pissed off with us. And we kind of had a an opposite reaction to each other.
Right.
But in a friendly way. And back then you could talk on G+. It didn't matter. You could actually communicate with people because everybody wasn't ready to jump down your throat. So we did manage to. I mean, he still rage quit a couple of times, but he kept coming back. So thank you very much for that, Simos. And we had a good discussion, really. And yeah, basically out of deference to that discussion and being my nemesis, I thought I would go with Simos as opposed to Simos.
Yeah.
Which sounded a little, similar but not.
Yeah.
Similar but different. So that was that.
And that would be like 2015? What would it be? Maybe
14.
14.
2014, I would have thought, yeah.
So, and the first time was one of those Nadia's Hangout.
My first time, my cherry. Yeah, I mean, basically 2014, I've been watching a lot of videos. I've been watching Matt Dillahunty for a few years, probably since 2009.
Mm-hmm.
No, not quite that long. Maybe 2011, I've been watching Matt Dillahunty videos. And so I was getting into apologetics or watching apologetics. But not really much was very much, that was as far as I'd got. I was just watching documentaries and doing courses, online courses and stuff like that. And then I saw a debate between someone called Alex Botten, and somebody else like Cy10 or Eric Hovin's kid or someone like that. I can't remember exactly who it was, but I think it was a pre-sub debate. And as a result of that, I subbed to Alex's channel, and that was my very first sub on YouTube, I think. And then as a result of that, I was suggested a Nadia hangout, which came up. So I watched a bit of this Nadia hangout, realized there was people in there I could talk to and a subject I could talk about. So I jumped on in, and of course then got absolutely trounced by one Brett Keane. And when I say trounced, I don't mean my argument was trounced, of course, just that he insulted the living shit out of me. Until eventually I went, look, I don't think I have to put up with this because I have a button here that says off. So I pressed the off button and just went, right, fuck that. And then shortly after, I got a DM from Xbox Fiend, who DM'd me to say, this isn't what the community's about. This is just some guy called Brett Keane. He's a known troll and he's known to be a twat and a wanker and whatever else. So come and talk to us, and we'll set you right on a few things.
Right.
So I went in. So he sent me a link to his Hangout. So I then went to his Hangout, and in there, I talked to him and another gentleman called Soccer Count,
Yeah.
who's quite famous about these parts. And both of those put me straight on who Brett Keane was and what kind of community it was and the fun that could be had, etc., etc. And I stayed around ever since. Thanks to those two guys.
So basically, your introduction was Brett Keane and Seamus. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah, pretty much. Brett Keane was my first interaction day one.
Right.
And he was literally shouting at me and telling me I was a filthy atheist
Yeah.
and X, Y, Z, and all the rest of it, and giving me terrible arguments, which I just didn't understand. Right now, I understand them because I realise how bad the arguments are on that side.
Right.
But back then, I thought they were serious, and I thought somebody seriously was putting this forward as a piece of logic,
I'm trying to think, so you had no formal education in philosophy or stuff like that, I mean, your background was not on the topic. You were just interested in the topic, in the persons, the conversation. What drove you to this kind of, places?
Yeah, okay, so, I mean, I became an atheist when I was about 8, I think. And I basically, a teacher told me, I was singing the Canadian national anthem. I lived in Canada at the time with my parents. And every day we used to have to sing the Canadian national anthem. And in the Canadian national anthem, it mentioned something about thanking God for the land that he gave us.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I'm in Canada.
Yeah.
I'm not sure this is our land. I'm not sure about this.
Yeah.
But even as a white person, I'm not convinced this is our land. So I don't know what this God is talking about. And then by the time I got home, I had sort of really thought about it a lot harder. And I came to the conclusion, I was just sitting in the back garden. I had a kind of an out-of-body experience thinking about this deep metaphysical question.
Right.
And I came to the conclusion that there could be no necessary being. It didn't make sense. It was an incoherent idea, given that necessary beings take land.
Yeah.
And other things besides, and making the universe go. That was the main one I was thinking about. It's like, well, what makes the universe go?
You started from them, you went to the atheist experience, and then you follow up, So, but,
yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut short. So yeah, basically, then I became an atheist. I recognized the lack of necessity of an argument for God, and so I'd always been interested in that. When I was a kid, it wasn't popular to be, it wasn't a thing to be an atheist. So I went through a whole series of Christian schools, finding out that Christians were authority figure Christians were basically not just wrong, but looked pretty stupid when they talked about their subjects they were trying to convince me of. So as a result, I kind of kept that in mind. And when I saw Matt Dillahunty, I thought, well, there you go. That is the man, because no, seriously, he's got, some great arguments against Christianity here, and he knows what he's talking about. So I was there to learn all of these arguments that I could have had growing up, which I never had, right? And then I started that led me on to Hitchens and and I started getting onto heavier forms of atheism. And before you knew it, I was sitting in my, I was like lying down on my sofa, injecting mainstream philosophy. And I never recovered from that, basically.
So I mean that's interesting to me, because as an European, when I see people like Dillahunty, or most of the American one, I mean, I understand the arguments and all this stuff, but in my opinion, they're really, well, I wouldn't say skewed, but they're really heavy on a reality that usually we do not face in Europe. Namely, really, Christian extremists, for lack of a better term. And so, did you find the same difficulties that I had in following that kind of, passion that they had, or stuff like that? What was your reaction to that?
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I mean, of course, I grew up in Canada, so from the ages of about 5 to 11, possibly. I was in Canada, so I was kind of like watching all this Christian stuff on TV. It wasn't talked about. Religion just wasn't talked about. And other than that one conversation with the teacher, I never gave it a second thought
Right.
until I came back to the UK. Then when I came back to the UK, I realized all the schools were more Christian. In fact, we had not just going into a teacher's class, but we had an assembly where the whole school got together in one place, right? The main hall, sports hall.
Right.
And the headmaster said some Christian things. And then they got us to sing hymns.
That's
right? So
interesting.
it wasn't the national anthem, it was hymns. And of course, I just went, right, I'm not singing Christian stuff. I mean, this is just nonsense, you know what I mean? So
That is, I mean, that is super interesting. I did not know about that in the UK. I mean, we didn't have that kind of thing in Italy, and we have the bloody Pope. You know what I mean? So, yeah, okay, I get you. So,
remember, our head of state is the Queen, who is the defender of faiths.
right, yeah, fair enough, yeah, yeah.
Head of the Anglican Church, which they're all very proud of over here.
Right.
Well, we've got our own church, so yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you have to have your own church. Bloody hell! What was I thinking? I mean, nothing is good enough for you. But you got to do your own stuff, right? Okay, that's fair enough. So, I mean, my other question would be: we've seen a lot of people, coming and go. I mean. In my opinion, the arguments, they're like, going in waves. They come and come back, they go and come back, depending on the person, which is on the scene at the moment. If you had to, to scale them, would you say that the arguments were more interesting or the people were more interesting? What was your think about that? So, in other words, I mean, could you detach the argument from the person, or you could find, some argument was not compelling but more interesting to talk because of the person which was talking about that?
I mean, that's almost certainly true. I had really good conversations with a guy called Declan, who was a Calvinist at the time, a Matt Slick acolyte, and he's not anymore. I believe he's an agnostic now, but at the time, I really started understanding Calvinism and this hard line and more literal interpretation of the Bible than certainly Anglicans had, and Catholics. Well, I mean, they just make their own shit up anyway, right?
Yeah.
So whatever. So that was interesting, and then once the arguments started coming through, then I'd find my different ways to attack the arguments. So that I found that interesting. Not just how many flaws does the Kalam have? Right. Well, we discovered it had a shitload. I mean, a boatload of criticisms which you can throw at all different levels, both premises, different parts of the premises. Just the inference rules seem wrong as well. All right. So you can attack it from many different angles, and that really interested me. Then once I'd learned the different angles, then it was more down to, well, which arguments do I find not compelling, but just interesting thought processes in which you have to go down in order to debunk them. So for me, that fine-tuning argument or the teleological argument always has an appeal to me, because I like different ways to debunk that, which have completely different logical forms.
Right.
And that doesn't come down to people anymore. I mean, Ortangelo is the one that I've spoken to most about it recently, and there's no drier person to talk to in a debate than Ortangelo. Okay. And he makes the same mistakes, right? He argues in the same way about all of his arguments. But when it comes to that one, he's particularly, there's a lot of rhetoric when it comes to that fine-tuning argument.
Right. Yeah,
So,
I mean, you said a thing which it has always puzzled me. I mean, well, it's not not my opinion, but I always thought that you were talking about doctrines before, and I always thought that the biggest advantage that the Catholic Church has compared, to fundamentalists and all that stuff is that they have they have a reference point, and they tell you, okay, this is how you got to interpret the Bible, period, right? So all this going back and forth, yeah, I'm a literalist, but that doesn't make any sense because you have to interpret. It's way easier for a Catholic because the only thing you have to say, you take the doctrine, says, okay, let's see what it reads over there.
Yeah.
So have you found the same thing? And I've always, sometimes talking about with these people, I found that they, well, I wouldn't say they're in difficulties, but they struggle to explain that kind of thing. They don't have this body, which, basically tells them the interpretation. What do you think about it?
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, there's two things. Firstly, yeah, I certainly enjoy talking to Catholics because they seem to have a lot more rounded opinion. They seem to be less presuppositional and more evidential. And obviously, when you chase them down the road, right? I mean, obviously, from my position, all arguments fail. So whether
Right.
they're inductive or deductive, they're going to fail one way or another. But I prefer the inductive arguments given for, God's existence, and the Catholics have those in spades. Because, of course, in reality, they've had, the best part of 1,500 years or 1,000 years with some of the best minds in Europe
Right.
applying themselves to the apologetics, right? So, they've always got an answer, right?
Right.
All they've got to do is dig for it.
Yeah.
And then if they don't have an answer, or even their answer is incoherent, like the Trinity answer, they just go, well, tradition. We have tradition, and we can call on any number of theologians over the centuries that have interpreted it
Right.
any number of different ways, depending on what your objection is. So sometimes you're arguing against Augustine, sometimes it's Aquinas, sometimes it's Origen,
Yeah.
and great, bring them on, right? It's a longer conversation. So obviously Jim is is a Catholic, and Maximus was a Catholic, and those are two of the better debaters in the Christian community that I've ever spoken to. So I think that says a lot for Catholicism in terms of its mental rigor, anyway, compared to both Calvinism, which just seems to be putting your hands up and going, yeah, I know he's a complete smackhead, but what you're going to do? It's God. Or Protestantism in the other end, like the Anglican, which is like, well, it's a touchy-feely. I believe it because my feelings tell me it's probably going to be real.
Right.
So it must be true. And that's it. So you got the two ends of Protestant, and bang smack in the middle, you got the Catholics going, yeah, well, unless you argue from an evidentialist standpoint and then duck out at the last moment to, this is what the tradition says.
Right. Yeah.
It's brilliant, really. I mean, I love the way it covers everything.
Yeah.
So and it's one of the reasons why I stick to, despite being wrong in some philosophical sense, strong atheism. And I still say, no, I think God doesn't exist. And here are the reasons, mainly that, any meaningful definition of God has these issues with either deductive, regressive justification, special pleading, and if it's an inductive, or then there's certainly as much counter evidence against that position to say that there's no need to accept the evidentialist arguments as true.
So you
Anyway,
you touch a little bit on the Nadia's hangout at the beginning, and I mean Nadia's hangout were quite well known for being like it was basically a huge container, and yeah, I mean yeah, I'm trying to be polite here, man. So and yeah, I would say that the religious conversation was the main core, or but there were also other type of conversation, politics and stuff like that. Those kind of conversations interested you as much as the theological ones, or what? I mean, what was your reaction to that?
I mean, I think I had fun with some of those conversations back then, but I wouldn't anymore. I don't personally. I don't find politics to be particularly what's the word I'm looking for? Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm past the point where it matters so much to my life that I have to take a view on it. Do you know? So there you go. You know what I mean? I don't. I've been disappointed by too many failures in British politics in the last 30 years. Right? I mean, I voted for Thatcher the first time
Oh wow!
because yeah.
I
Well,
found
I'm generally a
I found
conservative.
one. I mean, because
There you go.
it's no. I mean, honestly, it's like in Italy, finding someone which voted for Berlusconi. I mean, nobody did. Actually, there's
No.
somebody had to.
Yeah.
I
But
think.
she got in on a landslide, so I don't think I was the only one.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It was my first election. You know, I think I was just 18 or something like that, and so I voted for her because I'm generally a conservative at heart, financially anyway. Although it turns out I'm a liberal, so in the British sense of the word, classical
Right.
liberalist, you know.
Right.
Though, yeah, so or a socialist, liberal socialist, I would say.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you know, I found them interesting back then, but I don't anymore, right? I mean, we've had you know, Thatcher lie to us, right, and close all the mines when she said she wouldn't. She said she was going to give away the public services to the people. She didn't. She sold them. And then, thirdly, obviously, we had Blair taking us to war under false pretenses, and then giving America the chance to fuck over the rest of the world by
Right.
not having any evidence when they finally went into Iraq, which I felt was a disgusting thing to do. You know,
Yeah.
first and second. So I got more and more disillusioned. Right, in this country one of the Blair promises early on was 10% tax rate for low income earners. So this was going to be massive to bring out millions of people from poverty and give them a chance to work, you know, at a reasonable level of wages.
Right.
And it lasted about 8 months before they finally repealed it.
Yeah.
Even then, Blair never did it. We had to wait till Brown to get in. Brown put the tax rate down to 10p. Loads of people went back to work. Then he put the taxes back up again.
So what I mean, my last question would be, and then we go to another, a segment of this thing. My last question would be because, well, you touched on it, but I think it is interesting when you said, I mean, you're basically a conservative, blah blah blah. The difference in conversation between I would say Europeans, very loosely, and Americans, and I'm taking that as an example. When you say you're conservative at heart, if you were in the US, you would probably be, a staunch communist, by their standards. So it's
sure.
right.
Yeah.
So
I'm a socialist, so that's
right,
communism
yeah,
over
but
there.
taking that as an example, and again, the language barrier is not there, so that's an advantage. But there is a cultural, barrier. Have you ever found that? Well, not troublesome, but have you ever found, some difficulties sometimes, in having a conversation with Americans, trying to express the same concept while they might have different ideas about the same concept?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, but they tend to be across that religious divide. So, or the political one, as you say, but more across the religious divide, I guess, because of the people that I meet. And if I'm on a different religious side, then I'm a communist without question, just for saying I'm a socialist, because they won't even give me the chance to explain what kind of socialism I'm talking about. Right, so it's that kind of, like, I don't know, straw manning or just showing bias straight out. When I have those political conversations, I still find it difficult. I mean, there used to be a guy, Jeff.
Oh yeah. I know. It was the not the libertarian guy, Jeff. Yeah.
Total libertarian.
Right.
He wanted no government at all.
Right.
You know what I mean? And having a political conversation with him was like, I don't know, every step was a wrong step. I mean, there's no step I could make to say something to back myself up without him going, oh yeah, but you would say that because, you're a Marxist, or...
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but I'm a conservative Marxist. Okay, so just bear that in mind, mate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean,
Jeff Keller.
that divide can be difficult, and the language. Whenever I say, oh no, I'm a conservative. They go, what? So you're a fascist?
Yeah.
You know, if they're taking me out of context, and I'm
Right.
like, no, I'm definitely not that. You know. Anyway,
Yeah.
I find the same all over.
Jeff Keller was the name of the guy.
Jeff Keller, there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
There was another one called Jeff Hot. No, that wasn't him. Yeah, Jeff Keller, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, nice guy, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
politically right out on the far end. So
Okay, so because I want to keep everything really short, because people get bored really easily. It's the bloody internet. They got to watch porn and videos of kittens.
oh yeah, sub to my OnlyFans.
Right, right, yeah. So this is the last part of the conversation. This is the part where I ask you 3 questions that I ask my guests to send it to me. So those are the questions that you send me that you want me to ask you. And the first one would be, you are into F1. How long have you been interested in it?
Oh yeah, well, I'm glad you noticed that actually, Fabio.
Well, yeah, you wrote
I,
it to me. Yeah, so.
yeah. There you go. So yeah, no, I'm into F1. I've been into F1 since I was a kid. Since I first got back from Canada, in fact. So 76, I believe. I watched 2 races. 75. I remember hearing stuff about 75 and the Neusschleicher crash with Niki Lauda.
Yeah.
And then I saw the next year. I thought, oh wow, and he's racing still in '76. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. So I watched literally maybe 2 races that the BBC put on. One of them of which was in the middle of the night, which was the Japan race.
Yeah, Fuji. Yeah.
And I remember watching it, thinking, well, I mean, literally 2 pixels wide on a screen of basically just water, and rain. You couldn't really see anything. But I remember watching that race and Niki Lauda pulling over and me just going, wow, I've got to stay and watch this and make sure, see if James actually finishes, because he's British,
Yeah.
This is my country after all, and I've only just got here. So I stayed up to watch it, and of course he won the world championship. And the next year, I managed to see about 4 or 5 races, something like that. And then eventually the BBC put them on and got the rights, put every race on live, and that was it. I started watching every race live. That became an obsession, where I literally had to be sitting at the TV at least 2 minutes before the start of the race, spliff in one hand, drink in the other hand. Okay, entertain me, and I'd sit there and be bored for like 2 hours, fall asleep through some of them and all sorts of things. But mainly excited because, of course, Murray Walker, as I've told you before, Murray Walker was the commentator, and Murray Walker was a commentator like no other. So I really enjoyed watching the races just to hear him commentate.
Okay.
Later on, we actually started recording the races and then taking video or sound clips of Murray Walker.
Oh, okay.
Just Murray Walker. And I had a whole hard drive full of these things at one point. My friend basically did most of them, and so I had this hard drive just full of Murray Walkers. But unfortunately, the hard drive went down with the computer.
Oh.
And we lost it all.
That's so bad. So, okay, the second question would be, how long have you been doing your show?
The F1 show that we do. I do an F1 show with a marvelous co-host called Fabio. And we've been doing a show now for probably the best part of 6 years, I would say, something like that. Maybe we started with Jim Garner and did one with Vito for a couple of, well, not even a couple of seasons, for 1 season. Yeah. Not even a full season, probably. We're difficult to get on with. What can I say? Yeah. Have high standards. I tell you, even if, we're hoping to get an interview next year with Lewis Hamilton's dog. That's how high profile we are. So, and anyway, so Formula One commentary, starting again on March, and 6 years.
Nice. So, in the third, and final question. Is what is the name and link of your channel? Just
my channel.
Yeah.
Is that the question? Okay. Yeah, my channel is Simos Funk, and this is where we actually broadcast live our Formula One show.
Okay.
So Simos Funk, youtube.com/Simos Funk, all one word. Please come and sub, and thank you very much, Spooky, for the super chat there. Yeah, I only do that on Thursday mornings between the hours of 9 and 3 past, because that's all she'll let me do. So, okay, thank you, Spooky.
Yeah, yeah. And you got I don't know, you got a Twitter, an OnlyFans. You got you doing some other thing on the internet.
I don't have a Twitter. I don't really have an OnlyFans. I've subscribed to about 30,000, but I've only got one. I don't have one myself. And no, that's it. You can only find me. Oh, I'm on Twitch.
Okay.
Fuck it, I am on Twitch.
There you
right?
go. See?
I haven't put any content on Twitch yet. But Savage is telling me I should. So I might soon be going to Twitch, and you can find me on Twitch, Simos Funk, probably.
I think it's twitch.tv has to be slash. Yeah.
Twitch, okay, twitch.tv/
Simos Funk. I think.
Simos Funk.
I have no idea.
You know it already.
I don't. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Simos. It's been a huge pleasure talking to you as always, and we will talk. We will talk soon. Because of that, F1 thing that you have going on, and you
in March. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, thank you very much, and we'll see you around. And let's hope that this time the thing has worked, because this is the second time, and the first time I botched it. So we just hope that this one works. Yeah. And if people hear this, they know it's only the second time. If they hear at the end of it, if they hear me swearing, might be the third time. And then might not be a fourth time, because I'm gonna crash everything down.
Yeah, and I got to say thank you so much. All the best wishes to your family, of course, and the 50 quid's in the post for doing this for me. So
okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
I'll send them through Peter. So. You're golden,
nothing will happen there then.
Oh, well, I mean, it looks like it's a you problem, not a my problem. So, yeah, there you go.
It's always been a me problem. See you later.
Thank you. Ciao.
If I didn't care more than words can say, if I didn't care, would I feel this way?